Kia ora everyone. I thought I would quickly jump online here at home in Wellington to just give you a very quick update, if you missed the press conference today, around the next steps for us all here in New Zealand within our alert level framework and in our battle against COVID-19. So everyone by now will be really familiar with our alert level system. Obviously, it's there to help just give a signal around when we are moving up or down, the kind of expectations you can have around the contact you'll have with one another. Obviously, we're in alert level 3 at the moment, and that's really designed to make sure that we really still limit our contact with one another, just because of the ongoing risks of COVID-19 spreading. And again, as we've called alert level 3, this is our waiting room, the place that we check that all of those gains that we've made before in level 4, we've really locked them in. So today we announced that basically from Thursday, we'll be moving into alert level 2. Now, we've already broadly given the framework for what that will look like, what businesses can operate, what it will mean for interacting with each other, travel, and so on. But just to reiterate the details that we shared today, and this is all based on the advice of the Director General of Health. So from Thursday, you'll see that retail will reopen. We've got expectations there that they really manage within their shops. Social distancing, hygiene of all those surfaces that people commonly touch, just making sure it's a safe environment for people to pop in. But you will see shops reopening on Thursday. You'll also see cafes and restaurants reopening as well. And we've worked hard there to give them some guidelines around how to make it safe for you to go and enjoy a cup of coffee or to have a meal. And the main thing that they need to keep in mind is they need to keep people separated. And so we've designed the 3 S's for restaurants, bars, cafes. We want to make sure that when you're in there that you're seated. So that means no matter what, whatever venue there is seating available, is that we've got to make sure everyone is separated. Same as what we expect of everyone when they're out and about in the public. And the third one is making sure that instead of having multiple people serving your table, that you just have one. A single server. They might be working just one corner of a restaurant, but just making sure you have that one person interacting with you, just in case there's any issues down the track. You haven't got multiple people we're then tracing. So those are the 3 guidelines. Of course, if you're a small cafe and you're used to doing counter service and people take their meals and then go and sit at a table, that's okay. But again, keeping that social distancing while people are queuing and constantly cleaning those surfaces. All of that guidance is available for hospitality online. So those are the kinds of spaces you'll be seeing opening on Thursday. Includes as well malls, cinemas, libraries, so on. On Monday, you'll see schools, early childhood educations, and our education facilities generally will be opening on Monday. And the reason we've gone for Monday is simply so they don't end up opening midweek. So it gives them a bit of time to plan and prepare as well. And then on Thursday, the 21st of May, so roughly the week after we've started moving into alert level 2, you'll then see bars opening. Now, the reason we've staggered that till last is that is our most at-risk area. We are requiring, again, them to comply with the 3 S's. So if they're usually a nightclub, unfortunately, they are going to have patrons seated, and that's so we can manage social distancing. So it will mean a different way of working. Now, over the top of all of that, we're also asking you and I to make sure that when we're out and about, we're not socialising with more than 10 people. So you can go to a restaurant, but they can't take group bookings of more than 10 for you and your friends. That's just to keep those social interactions just a bit tighter for now. There's a really good reason for that. You will have noticed that some of our biggest clusters in New Zealand have been weddings. We had a bar. We had a conference where there was a social period afterwards. So these are the kinds, and we've had 2 weddings. So these are the kinds of interactions that we know are risky. And so that's why we've phased that one until last. Also, some of you might have seen that South Korea recently opened its bars and then after a week had to close them again because they had issue. So we don't want that. So we're making sure that we stage it in a way that we can have some certainty that we're on the right track and that we're ready to move into that place. So that's just a really broad outline of some of the announcements made today. Again, those basics: keep your distancing when you're out and about. If you are socialising or in organising for some mixing and mingling, nothing more than 10 people. But, of course, you will be able to go out to retail, go out to cafes, go out to restaurants very, very soon from Thursday. For those who have been in self-isolation, for those who are our over 70s or have compromised immunity, what we're really just saying there is make sure you look after yourself when you go out, keeping your distance, making sure that you've got access to hand sanitizer and hand washing, just to take that extra layer of care. But we don't have an expectation that people stay inside on an ongoing, prolonged basis. And so we are moving to alert level 2. Just to make sure we are moving to alert level 2 because we believe that we're safe enough to move into that phase. I know one of the things that's really difficult is you'll see from today that we are keeping those social gatherings to 10, and that's really across the board, whether it's a wedding, whether or not it's a 21st, whether or not it's an anniversary, and I know that's really tough. We've also, for consistency, said actually a lot of people who are members of churches do know each other well and come together to socialise as well. And so that limit of 10 applies there as well. So it is really consistent. We don't want this to be long. So Shannon, I know you're asking about funerals. We will be reviewing this in 2 weeks. If our numbers are still good, the Director General has already said that he will recommend a higher number of people being able to come together. I know how hard that is, but one of the things we've seen overseas is there have been outbreaks from funerals. They are events where, of course, you want to be physically close to one another, you want to support one another, you want to help one another as you grieve, in the same way that at a wedding you want to celebrate together. And so it's that personal contact which unfortunately also poses risk. So that's why we're having to do it this way. But we are, of course, very hopeful that it won't be for too much longer as well. I see lots of people commenting that I look a bit tired. It might be my backdrop. I'm not sure that this is the most flattering backdrop that I've ever sat in front of. This is in Premier House. This is, I don't know what to call this room. Maybe I'll call it a conservatory, but it is one of my favourite spaces here, mostly because this furniture, I really love this. When I came in, it's really old school cane furniture. They said that they were going to get rid of it, and I said they weren't allowed but look at in particular at this. Look at that. I love that chair. This is a fabulous chair. So that's a little glimpse into the conservatory. This is a much better corner of it because where I was sitting just now was right next to the nappy bucket, which I'm going to admit was not the freshest place to be sitting for this Facebook Live. So when it comes to health services, you'll see those starting to wind back up into things like rolling out elective surgeries and so on. Of course, you have been able to access GPs and many other services at level 3, but really things do get back to that level of normality for level 2. A quick final reminder, we are not there yet. Thursday is the day, so please stick with the way things are at the moment. Keep an eye out for our rolling results. You know, we keep hoping that we see some of those clusters we've got at the moment really wind down, but one of the things we've learned about COVID-19 is, unfortunately, it is able to be transmitted, as it were. Transmission can be silent. We do know that people can be asymptomatic, not know they have it, and all of that makes it really tricky, which is also why we're being really careful. The final thing is that, of course, you'll see from Alert Level 2, what we're doing is really opening up things as much as we can, as safely as we can. I have friends that work in hospitality, and I've been thinking about them a lot. I know how hard this period has been, but I want to make sure that when we get to a point of opening them, that genuinely we can keep it that way. One final, Dana has asked a question that I've heard asked a lot. And that is, why are we opening schools when we've got limits on social events at 10? Well, you'll notice down it as well, we haven't put a limit on the number of people that can be in an office or a place of work. We do have an expectation that people will be, in places of work, that people will be going into schools. And of course, we totally accept that social distancing in schools and early childhood education is pretty tough. So we've been working alongside the Ministry of Education and the education sector to put in place extra measures to make sure we're keeping schooling environments as clean as we can and as safe as we can. But we're also will be expecting that people are going back into workplaces as well. Essentially, we wouldn't be moving to alert level 2 if we did not believe that was safe. And I can tell you that's one of the things that I, of course, think about from the perspective of being a parent too. I know that's something people are concerned about, so we wouldn't be moving there if we didn't think that it was safe and if we didn't have measures in place to manage anything that may arise. You may recall we did have close contacts in a school very early on. We had someone with COVID in a school down in Dunedin. In each of these cases, we did not have transmission in those schools. We have had one cluster in Auckland, and again, we're looking really closely into what happened there and the way that it affected parent community as well, just to see what we can learn about that. But obviously, we're in a very different phase now. 2 cases today. We know where they've come from. We know how they've come to be there. So we would not be making this decision if we did not believe it to be safe. Right. So, Georgia, just a final question there. What happens if daily media updates in level 2? So I'll keep doing those updates. I actually do press conferences most days. I totally accept that they aren't necessarily things that everyone's been tuning into before now. But I'll make sure that I keep signposting those. It just means that I'm not necessarily going to have Dr. Ashley Bloomfield with me the entire time. So that is likely to change soon. Not immediately, but soon. Till then, thank you everyone for joining me. I've got a large stack of papers sitting right next to that amazing nappy bucket. So I'm going to go and start on all of those. But thanks for tuning in. I will try and double back and see whether or not I can catch up on some of all of those questions from you. But till then, thanks for joining me. Take care and look after yourself.